evening, and I'm going to talk about the Poseidon Adventure. Talk about the Poseidon Adventure. Oh, I just made a video previous to this about something different, and I've still got this voice. So let me just. I didn't want to give myself much time to prepare. I don't like doing that. I don't like putting all the notes together. You know, all the 4 hours I spent today writing about the Poseidon Adventure. No, I didn't. I didn't spend 4 hours today writing about the Poseidon Adventure. But I did watch the Poseidon Adventure last week. And I'm going to talk about it. I might put that lounging light on for a bit. It gives an extra glow, you see. I'm thinking about it. Dilemma. Look, you know what? Midnight Charlie Man, hello, how are you doing? Welcome to my channel. And so, about 10 days ago, I watched the Poseidon Adventure with the always great Gene Hackman, Shelley Winters, Carol Lindley, Ernest Borgnine, different old school of acting, aren't they? Red Buttons, all lovable characters. Well, sort of, we'll get into that. Pamela Sue, there's one more here. There seems even more here. I'm trying to be serious. And don't call me Shirley. Different movie, Pat. Different movie. Now, I'm serious and don't call me Shirley. Let's view all the cast here. Okay, oh, here we go. Show more. Oh, yeah, show more. Oh, Pat, audience is waiting. And it's interesting because he's in it there. Now, seriously. Okay, so, the Poseidon Adventure. Wonderful cast of folk. And the great Gene Hackman. He's still with us, I think he's about 83. I'm going to bring another page up here. Just another page. And then get right into it. This is what I call my preparation. Now, the Poseidon Adventure. Here we go, Poseidon Adventure. 1979. What's that? It says 1972. Hang on, there's not two of them, is there? Oh, Beyond the Poseidon. Oh my. Okay. I think I know about this. I'm going to turn that lantern light on anyway, just for extra depth of glow. I have not seen Beyond the Poseidon, so I watched Poseidon Adventure 10 days ago, and I like to watch it occasionally. I don't know, about once a year or so. It just goes back to that time when I first started watching movies. Like it was probably it was one of the first movies I ever saw, and yeah, like maybe one of the first 5 movies that I ever saw. And a different class of acting. Actually, we didn't do those. No, I'm just figuring out where to put my glasses. Movies change for me over time. And I do greatly enjoy a movie set on the disaster movies and a group of people, the survival movies. I'm not stuck for words. I've got 5 things at once that I could say. This movie could be considered a screaming, yelling, shouting match between Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine. That's what it could be considered. And not many subtleties were used. Let me just make sure this is recording. It's really important. Now, this movie could be considered a screaming, yelling match between Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine. Actually, it could. I was watching it the other night. I always enjoy seeing it, but each time I watch it, I do get new things from it. And I actually love every aspect of it. From the very, it's so weird seeing, what's his name? Leslie Neeson? Not Liam Neeson. Leslie, oh, got it right, Leslie Neeson. Yeah. Um, it's so weird seeing Leslie Neeson not doing comedy in this. I was so used to that because I was introduced to, well, technically I wasn't because I saw the Poseidon Adventure before Flying High. I'm not really into that movie so much. I digress a little bit. But I just by watching this movie and having a perspective about it, I can see how Leslie Neeson was built for comedy. Now, in regard of things, I appreciate every aspect of this movie, which takes me on a grand adventure each time, and I I can say I like the dynamics of it. When even the dinner scene before the big tidal wave comes in, and how they're conversing with each other. I especially take great interest in the conversation that happens between Red Buttons and there's a couple of other women. Red Buttons is a great character, isn't he? James Martin. I don't know if I've seen many of his movies, but he's terrific. And I like the way that the characters are. I like the way that there's lots of characters set up. They establish the characters before the tidal wave comes in, before disaster strikes. That is a very good way to do things, and it's done very well on this. And it's a psychological thing in a sense. It's Red Buttons is at the table. He's with the older married couple, Shirley Winters and her husband, who is the Willy Wonka guy, Gene Wilder. So the bearings on this. Gene Wilder. Duh! The Willy Wonka guy who plays the grandpa. Yes. That's right. No, I'm not getting mixed up. Let's continue, shall we? Yeah, Jack Albertson. Took me long enough. Jack Albertson. Okay. Now, I actually really like that scene at the dinner table with red buttons, and he's and he's saying how that he's single and he's lonely, and I think it's kind of well set up because there's girls, seemingly available women, either side of him, and he's saying, "Oh, I find it so hard to get, it's very difficult to get a woman." I thought there's two women there, so you just have a conversation with them. Just have a conversation with them. But the way it's set up is, in that scene, is so well. It's well done because it gives a sense of when I'm watching these older movies, it takes me back to that time, and there's a little bit of sadness that goes with it because of how much, and I always say this because of how much the world has changed. So it's a contrast, again, a big contrast. And that scene is working in opposites because you've got Shirley Winters and her husband, and then you've got the single guy sitting across from them, and he's Red Buttons. I think Red Buttons is a good guy. He's a good guy. And then you got the preacher, Gene Hackman, who is some of the dialogue is weirdish, not weirdish, disjointed in a sense. Gene Hackman says, "Oh, the captain's left me in charge." mean, it's not a perfect movie. It isn't a perfect movie. As Gene Hackman says, the captain's left me in charge, and I think they did do certain things in a certain way during the 70s, and acting was done a certain way, and so was direction. They're all interesting. They're all done. It's all. I mean, it's very. I think it's very rough around the edges. I think Ernest Borgnine is quite rough around the edges, but that's that era. That's how he was, and this movie really, as I said, is a yelling, shouting match between Ernest Borgnine and Gene Hackman, and that's just how it is. Could they have done it differently and be more subtler? Of course they could have. And was it that just a thing that Gene Hackman was doing at time? Or he was just giving it? He was giving it all in a sort of one-dimensional effort, in a one-dimensional way. Like just, that's what his acting was at that time with this movie. They just belted it out. And could it have been done differently? Yes. Could they have been more subtle in a sense? Yes. Well, I mean, you know, you're having a disaster, you're trying to survive, but I could take that. You could consider that. And I like how the movie moves along. More so, I enjoy the nostalgia of it and a slight sense of foreboding I get from it yesteryear and how many years have passed by since. Are they all superb actors? They do their job well. They all do their job well, and it's a different style of acting. Would I watch the Poseidon Adventure again? Yes, I do enjoy watching it, even though I think Gene Hackman is just way over the top in it, way over the top. And Honest Borgnine, they could both have toned it down by 5 notches easily. I think connecting the dots on this, they do make quite a riveting team. Oh, I know it's a movie. I know it's just a movie, and it's supposed to be like that. You do the script a particular way, but at the very beginning, when they with that big tree, that big Christmas tree, right? And so, couldn't they have quickly had the sense that just when it falls down to lift it back up again? But of course, all that water floods in there, all the water rushes in there, and then of course, yes, that would interfere with the formula, because then if there were more people that were able to climb up that tree, that's more character interaction. That's even more interaction, and the group of people that we had was ideal. It was a group of people who are all interesting and different personalities, and able to keep the rhythm going along throughout the movie. And I liked Shelley Winters in this movie. She's terrific. And I had forgotten that Gene Hackman sort of sacrifices himself in the end, and I had forgotten about that part. And it's there's a thing at the end, and it's that when they get rescued, because they're in that world for like, what is it, 90 minutes, they're in that world. But when the rescuers come, that's like almost breaking the fourth wall. It's like, it's disturbing that world. It's the outside world, it's reality. Because while they're all trying to survive, well, you get to know them, you care about the characters. Each scene that moves along, you get to know the characters a little bit more, and you care about them. And you want them to survive. And as they tend to, as tragedy befalls them one by one, there is a sadness in that. And then finally, when the rescuers break through the hatch, that represents a breaking of the story. To me, it's like, oh, we've got to deal with the outside world now. How are they going to deal with the outside world? And thinking that Red Buttons is going to hook up with that girl. You know, he's very suited to her. He's very suited to her. And mm, everything about this movie is quite well done. It actually does move along quite smoothly, and as I said, I thought Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine, they could have toned it down. That was their thing to do. That's what they did, and it would have been revered back then. Back then, it would have been probably thought of as terrific acting. I don't think there's been any reviews back then that said Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine are overdoing it. But I don't think they thought that way back then. But in contrast, 30 years later, 72, 30, 50, 51 years later, of course, a contrast develops. And I have seen Kurt Russell's one. I did see Kurt Russell's one. I've seen it once. I can't remember much about it. I've only seen it once. And I do love going back to the 1970s survivalist movies, and I look at them and I think that acting is so different, and it's not how I see acting now. But when I see that acting, I'm like, wow, you're really going at this in a one-dimensional manner. It's just like today, I think you just do it differently. However, in saying that, it's still good to watch. It's still good to see. I still enjoy this movie and all the aspects. I love to just to watch that historical, that flashback in time to how they were back then. There's a bit of a homey feel about it because I was a 70s child, and this movie was made a year before I was born. 1 year before I was born, this movie was made, and so the memory went out of the camera. I mean, geez, well, this movie was on at least once a fortnight when I was growing up. I was always on TV. It was on TV every other 5 minutes, and it was always fun to watch. It's fun to watch. It's fun and nostalgic to watch the acting from back then. It is, and I think about that world when I watch it. I think about that world and how different the world is now. And there's a sense of sadness, and yet there's a sense of a beauty about it. And also that, like, I don't know how long this took to get made. Did it take 3 months to make this? Maybe about 3 months to make this. They could have done. I did. Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine pierce everyone's eardrums every day with their shouting match, depending on which scene they were doing. Because I don't think I would have had any eardrums left after that. Is there tension within the movie? Yeah. I'm entertained by Ernest Borgnine and Gene Hackman in this. I didn't say there's no tension. I mean, there's even another part where that their world, that group, their world gets into, like, they look down the other corridor. They walk down and there's like 100 people going down the other corridor, 100 of them, and they say, we found a way out. That's life up there. That represents life through the engine. And I goes, you can't get through the engine room. And Gene Hackman says, I've been there. I've seen it. And Gene Hackman has his charms. I do enjoy. So the other people, they go on their doomful way, and they will return to the group. At one point, always at some point during the movie, things have to be disturbed. I think things they get disturbed a few times. It's formula. you can be with the same group. You can stay. You can stay with the group of actors. You can stay with the group for the entire movie, but well, if you go away from them every now and again, if you go away from the group, it makes you care about the group more because you being introduced to a bunch of new strangers, like every 10 or 15 minutes during a movie. You're like, no, I don't want to be here. The reason you don't want to be there is you don't know anything about those new people. You don't care about them. There's been no character. There's been no care factor established, and because you've been following these other guys for the last 40 minutes, and feel like you know them, you care about them, but it's a usual thing in a script, in a movie, to shake it up a bit by parting ways with that for a while, and then when you actually, even though it was only for 1 or 2 minutes in the Poseidon Adventure, when you get back with the group, you care about them even more. It's like, oh, okay, we're back with these guys. Well, when Gene Hackman, he leaves for a while to go find the engine room. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And, oh, geez, Ernest Borgnine, he's rough with his acting. I know they've had a disaster. The ship's turned upside down, and Ernest Borgnine gives it a lot of passion. He puts his all into it. He does. Oh my gosh! And now, yes. Yeah. Hmm.